Hello, everyone. Imagine this. You're happily married, building a life with your husband, when your mother-in-law makes a snide remark about your own mother, calling her clumsy and suggesting she come from the countryside to work as a housekeeper. You think it's just harmless teasing until your mom actually shows up and everything flips upside down in ways no one saw coming. What happens when family secrets and hidden strengths collide? Stick around for this heartwarming tale of surprises, misunderstandings, and the power of family bonds. If you love stories like this that remind us to never judge a book by its cover, make sure to subscribe right now. It really helps the channel grow. And drop a comment below. Where are you listening from? And has anything similar ever happened in your life? Let's dive in. My name is Sarah Thompson, and this story takes place in our cozy home in a quiet suburb of Atlanta, Georgia. I'd been married to my husband, Mark, for about 5 years at the time. Mark is a wonderful man, kind, hardworking, an accountant at a local firm. We met in college, fell in love over late-night study sessions, and built a life together that felt solid and full of promise. We had a little house with a white picket fence, a garden I tended on weekends, and dreams of starting a family someday. Mark's mother, Evelyn, lived just a few miles away. She was in her early 60s, sharp as a tack, with perfectly coiffed silver hair and an opinion on everything. Evelyn had raised Mark mostly on her own after his father passed away young, and she prided herself on being independent and meticulous. Her home was always spotless, her meals gourmet, and she volunteered at the community center like it was her full-time job. But she had a way of making little comments that stung, especially on my side of the family. My mother, Clara, was the complete opposite. She lived in a small town about 2 hours away in the rolling hills of rural Georgia. Mom was in her late 50s, with wild curly hair she rarely tamed, and a laugh that could fill a room. She worked part-time at the local library and spent her days baking pies for neighbors, tending her vegetable garden, and helping anyone who needed it. Mom wasn't clumsy, exactly. She just had a relaxed way about her. Things like matching china or perfectly folded laundry weren't her priority. She valued warmth over perfection. One Sunday afternoon, Mark and I were over at Evelyn's for her famous pot roast dinner. The table was set with her best linens, candles flickering softly. We were chatting about our week when the conversation turned to housework, Evelyn's favorite topic. "You know, Sarah," Evelyn said, sipping her tea with that knowing smile, "keeping a home running smoothly is an art. Mark tells me you've been swamped at work lately. Maybe you need some help around the house." I nodded politely. I worked as a teacher at the elementary school, and yes, grading papers and planning lessons did keep me busy. "It's manageable, Evelyn. Mark pitches in too." She waved a hand dismissively. "Oh, I know my son does his best, but sometimes you need an extra pair of hands. Why don't you call that mother of yours, the one from the village? She could come stay for a bit, help with the cleaning, be your housekeeper. I'm sure she'd love the change of scenery." Her tone was light, but the words hit like a pinprick. Village made Mom's hometown sound backward, and housekeeper felt like a dig at her simple life. Mark shifted uncomfortably but didn't say anything. He hated conflict. I forced a smile. "Mom's busy with her own things, Evelyn, but thanks for the suggestion." She leaned forward, eyes twinkling. "Oh, come on, she's always talking about how she loves to help people, and let's be honest, she's a bit clumsy with her own affairs, isn't she, living out there in the sticks? This could be good for her, give her a purpose." I felt my cheeks flush. Mom wasn't clumsy, she was genuine, unpretentious, but arguing with Evelyn was like wrestling fog. I changed the subject to the weather, and the rest of dinner passed without incident. That night, back in our bed, I told Mark about it. "Your mom crossed a line today, calling Mom clumsy, suggesting she be our housekeeper?" Mark sighed, pulling me close. "She's just being Mom. She means well, but yeah, it was out of line. Ignore it." But I couldn't. The next morning, on my drive to school, I called Mom. We talked every few days, and I vented a little without naming names. "Honey, some people think city life makes them superior," said Mom with her warm laugh. "Don't let it bother you. How's everything else?" We chatted about her garden, my students, the usual. I didn't mention Evelyn's suggestion, but something in Mom's voice sounded thoughtful. A week later, on a crisp Saturday morning, Mark and I were sipping coffee in the kitchen when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Mom standing there, suitcase in hand, her curly hair tied back with a colorful scarf, wearing her favorite floral blouse and jeans. "Mom?" I gasped, pulling her into a hug. "What are you doing here? Is everything okay?" She grinned, eyes sparkling. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. I thought I'd come visit for a bit, help around the house, like you mentioned." My stomach dropped. "Like I mentioned?" She nodded. "You said someone suggested I come be your housekeeper. Well, here I am, ready to pitch in." Mark appeared behind me, looking confused. "Clara, this is a surprise. Come on in." Mom stepped inside, glancing around our home with approval. "Lovely as always. Now, where do I put my things?" I led her to the guest room, mind racing. How had she known Evelyn's exact words? I must have let more slip during our call. That afternoon, I called Evelyn to let her know Mom was here, partly out of courtesy, partly because I knew she'd hear anyway. "Oh, really?" Evelyn said, her voice a mix of surprise and something else. "That's interesting. Bring her over for dinner tomorrow. We'll see how she fits in." Her tone wasn't thrilled. Already the air felt charged. The next day, we arrived at Evelyn's with a pie Mom had baked that morning, apple cinnamon, her specialty. Evelyn greeted us at the door, her smile tight. "Clara, how nice to finally meet you properly," Evelyn said, shaking Mom's hand like it was a business deal. "Sarah's told me so much about life in your village." Mom smiled warmly. "And I've heard about your beautiful home. Smells wonderful in here." Dinner started politely. Evelyn served her signature roast chicken with all the trippings. We talked about the weather, Mark's job, my school. Then Evelyn steered the conversation. "So, Clara, Sarah mentioned you're here to help with housekeeping. That's generous. What do you do back home, besides the garden, I mean?" Mom set down her fork. "Oh, a bit of this and that. Library work, volunteering at the community kitchen, and yes, I'm happy to help Sarah however she needs." Evelyn's eyes narrowed slightly. "Library work? How quaint. Must be peaceful out there. No rush like in the city." Mom nodded. "It is peaceful. It's time to think, to learn new things." The tension was subtle, but there. Mark changed the subject to sports, but I could see Evelyn sizing Mom up, like she regretted her offhand comment. That week, Mom dove in. She cleaned our house top to bottom, not Evelyn's way, but efficiently, with little touches like fresh flowers on the table. She cooked hearty meals that filled the house with warmth. One evening, Evelyn dropped by unannounced. "Just checking in," she said, glancing around. Her eyes landed on the vase of wildflowers Mom had arranged. "Oh, that's rustic." Mom smiled from the kitchen. "Picked them from the backyard. Brightens things up, don't you think?" Evelyn forced a nod. "Sure, if you like that sort of thing." As the days passed, Evelyn's visits increased. She'd make suggestions. "Clara, dear, the curtains need ironing," or "That pie is nice, but have you tried my recipe?" Mom took it all in stride, always polite, always smiling. But I noticed something. Mom wasn't just helping, she was observing, asking quiet questions about Mark's family history, Evelyn's routines. One night, after Evelyn left, Mom sat me down. "Sarah, your mother-in-law, she's not as put together as she seems." "What do you mean?" Mom hesitated. "Just a feeling. Give it time." Little did I know, Mom's arrival was about to uncover a family secret that would change how we all saw each other and bring us closer in unexpected ways.
Part 2. The next morning after Mom arrived, I woke up to the smell of fresh coffee and something baking. I padded into the kitchen in my robe and found Mom already at work, flour on her apron, sleeves rolled up, humming an old hymn while she pulled a tray of cinnamon rolls from the oven. "Good morning, sleepyhead," she said, sliding a plate toward me. "Figured you and Mark could use a proper breakfast before the week starts." Mark wandered in a minute later, hair still messy, eyes widening at the spread. "Clara, you didn't have to do all this." "Nonsense," Mom replied. "A house feels alive when someone's cooking in it. Sit down before it gets cold." We ate together at the small kitchen table, the three of us. It felt normal, comfortable, like Mom had always been part of our routine. Mark kept stealing glances at me like he was waiting for the other shoe to drop. After breakfast, Mom started on the living room. She dusted the shelves, fluffed the pillows, wiped down the coffee table, but she didn't do it Evelyn's way, rigid, precise, everything lined up like soldiers. Mom moved with a gentle rhythm. She rearranged a few books so the colorful spines faced out, placed a small vase of daisies she'd picked from the yard in the center, and even hung one of my old childhood drawings on the fridge with a magnet shaped like a sunflower. When Evelyn called that afternoon, just to check in, I could hear the edge in her voice even through the speaker. "So, how's the help working out?" she asked. "Great, actually. Mom's already made the place feel warmer." A pause. Warmer. Interesting choice of words. Well, don't let her overdo it. Some people don't know when to stop. I bit my tongue. "She's fine, Evelyn, really." That evening, Evelyn arrived unannounced again, this time with a basket of her famous lemon bars and a stack of cleaning supply catalogs. "I thought Clara might find these useful," she said, handing them over like they were a favor. "Professional products, much better than whatever they use out in the country." Mom accepted the basket with a smile. "Thank you, Evelyn, that's thoughtful. Would you like some tea? I just brewed a cot." Evelyn hesitated, then nodded. "Sure, why not?" We sat in the living room, Evelyn perched on the edge of the couch like she might need to bolt. Mom brought in a tray, tea, cookies she'd baked earlier, and slices of the apple pie she'd made that afternoon. Evelyn took one sip and raised an eyebrow. "This tea is different. It's chamomile with a little honey and mint from my garden back home. Calms the nerves." Evelyn set the cup down. "I prefer Earl Grey, stronger." Mom just smiled. "Next time I'll bring some." The conversation stayed surface level for a while, weather, church events, neighborhood gossip. Then Evelyn steered it back to housekeeping. "Clara, dear, I noticed the curtains in the dining room could use a good pressing, and the baseboards, there's dust in the corners. Small things add up." Mom nodded thoughtfully. "You're right, I'll get to them tomorrow. Anything else you've noticed?" Evelyn blinked, caught off guard. "Well, the throw pillows are a bit mismatched, and that painting over the fireplace, it's crooked." Mom glanced at the painting, a simple landscape Mark and I bought on our honeymoon. "You're right again. I'll straighten it." Mark shot me a look that said, "This is going too smoothly." But Evelyn wasn't finished. "Also, Sarah mentioned you're from a small town. Do you have experience with larger homes? City standards are different." Mom leaned forward slightly. "I've kept house for 40 years, raised 2 kids, helped my neighbors, ran the church bake sales. I may not have fancy catalogs, but I know how to make a place feel like home." Evelyn's smile tightened. "Of course, just trying to be helpful." The evening ended politely. Evelyn left with her lemon bars barely touched and a promise to check in again soon. After the door closed, Mom turned to me. "She's testing me." I sighed. "She tests everyone. It's her way." Mom shook her head. "No, honey, this is different. She's not just testing how well I clean. She's testing whether I'll push back." Mark rubbed the back of his neck. "Mom can be intense, but she means well." Mom looked kindly at him. "I know she does, Mark, but sometimes meaning well hides something else." That week, Mom kept working. Quietly, steadily, she organized the pantry, labeled jars with neat handwriting, even fixed the squeaky back door with a little oil and patience. Our home started to feel different. Not perfect like Evelyn's, but lived in, loved. Friday evening, Evelyn called again. This time her voice was clipped. "I'm having a small dinner party tomorrow night, just a few friends from the garden club. I'd like both of you to come and bring Clara. It's time she met some of the neighbors." I exchanged a glance with Mom. "We'd love to. What can we bring?" "Nothing," Evelyn said quickly. "I have everything under control." Mom raised an eyebrow after I hung up. She wants to show me off, or show me up. Mark laughed nervously. It's just dinner. But I could feel it too. This wasn't just an invitation, it was a stage. The next evening, we arrived at Evelyn's house, a beautiful 2-story colonial with manicured lawns and white shutters. The dining room table was set for 12, crystal gleaming, flowers arranged perfectly. Evelyn greeted us at the door, dressed in a silk blouse and pearls. Right on time. Come in. Her friends were already there, well-dressed women in their 60s, sipping wine and chatting about charity events and vacation homes. Mom wore a simple navy dress she'd brought from home, her hair pinned back softly. She carried a small basket covered with a cloth. Evelyn took one look at it. "What's that?" Mom smiled. "Just a little something for dessert. I hope you don't mind." Evelyn's smile was polite but thin. "We have tiramisu, but thank you." Dinner began. The conversation flowed. Travel stories, book club pics, the latest neighborhood news. Mom listened quietly at first, nodding, smiling. Then one of the women, Patricia, turned to her. "So, Clara, Evelyn tells us you're from a small town up north. What do you do there?" Mom set down her fork. "I work part-time at the library, help at the community center, tend my garden, raise chickens sometimes." A few polite chuckles. "Chickens?" another woman asked. "How rustic." Mom laughed easily. "They're good company, and the eggs are better than anything you buy." Evelyn cleared her throat. "Clara's here to help Sarah and Mark with the house, a temporary arrangement." The table quieted slightly. Patricia tilted her head. "How nice. Sarah must appreciate the help." Mom looked around the table. "I appreciate being asked to help. Family is family." Evelyn's fork paused mid-air. Then Mom reached for her basket and uncovered it. Inside, a golden brown peach cobbler, still warm, topped with a lattice crust and a small jar of homemade whipped cream. "I thought we could have this instead of tiramisu," Mom said gently. "It's my mother's recipe. Simple, but it always brings people together." The aroma filled the room, sweet peaches, cinnamon, buttery crust. One of the women inhaled deeply. "That smells heavenly." Evelyn stared at the cobbler like it had personally offended her. Mom served small portions to everyone. When she placed a piece in front of Evelyn, she added softly, "I know you like things elegant, Evelyn, but sometimes simple is exactly what we need." Evelyn took a small bite. Her eyes widened, just a fraction. The table fell quiet except for the soft sounds of forks on plates. Then Patricia spoke. "Clara, this is incredible. You have to give me the recipe." Mom smiled. "Happy to." The rest of the evening shifted. The women asked Mom about her garden, her library job, her pies. Evelyn stayed mostly silent, watching. On the drive home, Mark said, "I think you just won them over." Mom looked out the window. "I didn't come to win anything. I came because my daughter needed me." But I could see it in her eyes. Something deeper was brewing. And the next morning, when Evelyn called me in tears, asking to meet alone, I knew whatever came next would change everything.
Part 3. The next morning, Evelyn called me at 7:30 sharp. Her voice was different, lower, almost shaky. "Sarah, can you come over? Alone? We need to talk." I glanced at Mom, who was already in the kitchen slicing fruit for breakfast. She caught my eye and gave a small nod, like she knew exactly what was coming. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, I told Evelyn. Mark was at work early that day, so it was just Mom and me finishing breakfast. She set a plate of fresh strawberries and yogurt in front of me. "Go easy on her," Mom said quietly. "Whatever she's carrying, it's heavy." I hugged her before I left. "You're not worried?" Mom smiled. "I've faced worse than a proud woman with hurt feelings." Evelyn's house looked the same as always, immaculate, quiet, but when she opened the door, she looked smaller. No makeup, hair not perfectly set, robe instead of her usual crisp outfit. "Come in," she said, voice thin. "Coffee's on the table." We sat in the sunroom, her favorite spot, surrounded by potted ferns and white wicker furniture. The coffee was hot, but neither of us touched it. Evelyn stared at her hands for a long moment. "I owe you and Clara an apology," she began. "I was wrong. What I said about your mother, it was unkind and unnecessary." I waited. This wasn't like Evelyn at all. She took a shaky breath. "When I suggested she come help, I didn't mean it as a compliment. I meant it as a way to keep things in order, my order. I've always believed that if something isn't done perfectly, it's not worth doing." And I looked at Clara, her easy smile, her simple clothes, the way she doesn't fuss over details, and I judged her. I thought she was less. Her eyes filled with tears. But last night, when she brought that cobbler, I took one bite and I remembered something I haven't let myself remember in years. She reached for a small photo album on the side table, one I'd never seen before. She opened it to a faded picture, a young woman in a sundress, holding a baby, standing in front of an old farmhouse. The woman looked strikingly like Evelyn, but softer, happier. "That's my mother," she said. "Your grandmother, Mark's grandmother. She raised me on a farm in Alabama. No money, no fancy things. She baked pies every Sunday, grew her own vegetables, sewed our clothes. She never once complained. And I was embarrassed by her." Evelyn's voice cracked. "When I married Mark's father and moved to the city, I wanted to leave all that behind. I wanted to be sophisticated, polished. I changed my accent, learned which fork to use, filled my house with things I thought proved I'd made it. And when I saw Clara, it was like looking at my mother all over again. And I hated it, because it reminded me of who I used to be, who I ran from." Tears slipped down her cheeks now. "I treated your mother like she was beneath me because deep down, I was afraid she'd see right through me, see that I'm still that scared girl from the farm who never felt good enough." I reached across the table and took her hand. "Evelyn, you don't have to be perfect to be loved." She squeezed my fingers. "I know that now. Seeing Clara last night, watching everyone light up over her cobbler, listening to her talk about her chickens and her library, it hit me. She's happy, truly happy, and I've spent decades chasing something that doesn't exist." We sat in silence for a while. The sun moved across the ferns, making patterns on the floor. Finally, Evelyn looked up. "I want to make this right. With Clara, with you, with Mark. I've been holding on to this wall I built around myself for so long, I forgot how lonely it is on this side." I nodded. "Mom's at home. Why don't you come over? Talk to her yourself." Evelyn wiped her eyes. "I'm scared she'll hate me." "She won't," I said. "Mom doesn't hold grudges. She believes people can change." We drove back to our house together. Evelyn sat in the passenger seat, clutching her purse like a lifeline. When we walked in, Mom was in the living room folding laundry, soft towels, Mark's shirts, my favorite blanket. She looked up, saw Evelyn, and set the basket down. "Evelyn," she said gently, "come sit." Evelyn stopped just inside the doorway. "Clara, I came to apologize. What I said about you, what I implied, it was cruel. I judged you because I was judging myself. I'm sorry." Mom walked over and took both of Evelyn's hands. "I accept your apology, and I forgive you. We all carry things we're not proud of. Doesn't mean we can't let them go." Evelyn's shoulders shook. Mom pulled her into a hug. Simple, warm, no hesitation. When they stepped back, Mom smiled. "Now, how about some tea? I made a fresh pot. Chamomile. It's good for the heart." Evelyn laughed through tears. "I'd like that." We sat in the kitchen, Mom, Evelyn, and me. Mom poured tea, added honey the way Evelyn liked it this time. They talked, really talked, about growing up poor, about losing parents too soon, about raising sons and worrying every day if you're doing it right. I listened, heart full.
That afternoon, Mark came home to find the three of us laughing over old stories. Evelyn was showing Mom pictures from the album. Mom was telling Evelyn about her chickens. Mark looked at me, eyebrows raised. I just smiled. Long story, good ending. From that day on, things changed. Evelyn started coming over more, not to inspect, but to visit. She brought recipes she wanted to try, asked Mom for gardening tips. Mom taught her how to make pie crust from scratch. Evelyn showed Mom how to arrange flowers like a professional. They weren't best friends overnight, but they became something better. Two women who finally saw each other without the walls. One Saturday, about a month later, Evelyn hosted another dinner party. This time, she asked Mom to help with the menu. Mom suggested a simple potluck. Everyone bring a dish from home. The table was filled with different foods. Evelyn's roast chicken, Mom's peach cobbler, Patricia's lasagna, someone's homemade bread. No one minded the mismatched plates or the casual feel. At the end of the night, Evelyn raised her glass. To family, she said, not just the ones we're born to, but the ones we choose to let in. Everyone toasted. Later, as we cleaned up together, Mom pulled me aside. You know, sometimes the hardest person to forgive is the one who reminds you of your own pain. But once you do, everything gets lighter. I hugged her tight. Thank you for coming when I didn't even ask. She kissed my forehead. You didn't have to ask, honey. That's what mothers do. And in that moment, surrounded by the people who mattered most, I realized something. Family isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, even when it's uncomfortable. And sometimes the people we think are the hardest to love are the ones who need it most.
Part 4. After Evelyn's tearful visit and the quiet reconciliation in our kitchen, life started to feel lighter. The air in the house changed, not because the cleaning was perfect, but because the people in it were finally breathing easier around each other. Mom stayed on for another 2 weeks, and during that time, the three of us, Mom, Evelyn, and me, began building something new. Not forced politeness, but real connection. One Tuesday evening, Evelyn called and asked if she could come over early the next morning. "I want to cook breakfast for all of us," she said. "Nothing fancy, just breakfast." When I told Mom, she raised an eyebrow but smiled. Let her try. Sometimes the best way to heal is through the stomach. The next morning, Evelyn arrived at 8 o'clock sharp, arms full of grocery bags. She looked nervous, hair slightly out of place, no pearls, just a soft cardigan and jeans. Mom opened the door and took the bags without a word, leading her straight to the kitchen. I brought ingredients for pancakes, from scratch, my mother's recipe. I haven't made them in decades. Mom nodded approvingly. Good choice. Pancakes bring people together. Mark wandered in, still in pajamas, and froze when he saw his mother wearing an apron that belonged to Mom. "Mom, you're cooking?" Evelyn gave a small laugh. "Don't look so shocked. I used to do it all the time before I decided perfection mattered more than joy." We sat around the table while Evelyn and Mom worked side by side. Evelyn measured flour carefully. Mom added a pinch of cinnamon just because it feels right. They didn't talk much at first, just quiet instructions, the clink of bowls, the sizzle of butter in the pan. When the first stack came to the table, golden, fluffy, drizzled with maple syrup, Mark took one bite and closed his eyes. "These are incredible," he said. "Mom, I don't remember you ever making pancakes like this." Evelyn looked down at her plate. I stopped because they weren't elegant. My mother made them every Sunday, and I was embarrassed. I wanted waffles with whipped cream and fresh berries instead. I wanted to be different from her. Mom reached over and touched Evelyn's arm. "Your mother would be proud of you right now." Evelyn's eyes filled again, but this time she didn't hide it. I spent so many years running from who I was, I forgot who I loved. We ate slowly, savoring every bite. No one rushed. No one critiqued the presentation. We just talked about childhood memories, funny mistakes, the small joys that get lost in the busyness of life.
After breakfast, Evelyn helped clear the table. She didn't insist on doing it the right way. She just did it alongside Mom, laughing when soap bubbles floated up from the sink. That afternoon, the four of us went for a walk in the neighborhood park. It was one of those perfect fall days. Crisp air, leaves crunching underfoot, sunlight filtering through the trees. Evelyn walked beside Mom, arms linked like old friends. "I've been thinking," Evelyn said quietly, "about how I treated you when you first arrived. I was afraid you'd see the cracks in my perfect little world." Mom squeezed her arm. "We all have cracks, Evelyn. That's where the light gets in." Evelyn stopped walking and turned to face her. "I want to do better, not just for Mark and Sarah, for you too. You didn't have to forgive me, but you did, and you showed me what grace looks like." Mom smiled softly. "Grace isn't something you earn, it's something you give, and you're giving it right now by being honest." Mark slipped his hand into mine. We walked behind them, watching two women who had once stood on opposite sides of an invisible line, now walking shoulder to shoulder. That evening, back at home, Evelyn stayed for dinner. Mom made chicken and dumplings, comfort food from her childhood. Evelyn helped roll out the dough, laughing when it stuck to her fingers. "I'm terrible at this," she admitted. "You're learning, that's all that matters." We ate by candlelight in our small dining room. No fine china, no formal place settings, just mismatched plates, laughter, and stories. After dinner, Evelyn pulled out her phone. "I want to show you something." She opened her photos and scrolled to a picture of a simple farmhouse, the same one from her album. "This was my childhood home. I haven't been back in 30 years. I sold it after my mother passed, but I kept the key. I think I'd like to go visit, see what's left of it." Mom looked at the photo. "It's beautiful, simple, honest." Evelyn nodded. "I think I'm ready to stop running from simple." Mark spoke up. "We could all go, a family trip, when you're ready." Evelyn's eyes shimmered. "I'd like that, very much." The next few days passed in a gentle rhythm. Evelyn started coming over every morning for coffee. Sometimes she brought flowers from her garden. Sometimes Mom brought pies. They traded recipes, gardening tips, even started planning a small community bake sale together at the local church. One afternoon, while Mom and Evelyn were sorting through old photo albums in the living room, I overheard them talking. "You know," Evelyn said, "I used to think strength meant never showing weakness, but watching you, you're strong in a way I never was. You don't hide who you are." Mom turned a page. "And you're learning to stop hiding. That takes courage too." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Evelyn said, "Clara, thank you for not giving up on me." Mom reached over and patted her hand. "Family doesn't give up, not on each other." That weekend, we all drove to Evelyn's old farmhouse. It was a 4-hour trip. Mark drove, Mom sat up front telling stories from her own small-town childhood, Evelyn and I in the back sharing memories and quiet laughter. When we arrived, the house was still standing, worn but sturdy. The porch sagged a little, the paint peeled in places, but the yard was full of wildflowers. Evelyn stepped out of the car slowly, like she was afraid to breathe. Mom walked up beside her. "It's still here, just waiting." Evelyn touched the porch railing. Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I thought coming back would hurt, but it feels like coming home." We spent the afternoon exploring, finding old toys in the attic, looking at faded photographs on the walls, sitting on the porch swing while the sun set. As the sky turned pink and gold, Evelyn turned to Mom. "I'm sorry it took me so long to see you clearly." Mom smiled. "You see me now. That's what matters." We drove home that night with the car full of memories, and something even better, peace. Evelyn didn't change overnight. She still liked things neat, still preferred Earl Grey to chamomile, but she stopped judging. She started listening, and she started loving without conditions. Mom stayed another week, then went back to her small town, promising to visit often. Mom and Evelyn talked on the phone every few days. They sent each other recipes, garden photos, even planned a joint trip to the farmer's market. And me, I learned something too. Family isn't about who's right or who's perfect. It's about who shows up, who forgives, who keeps loving even when it's hard. Sometimes the people who seem the hardest to reach are the ones waiting for someone brave enough to meet them halfway.
Part 5. The drive back from Evelyn's childhood farmhouse felt different. The car was quiet at first, not the uncomfortable silence of before, but the kind of quiet that comes after a long exhale. Sunlight slanted through the windows, turning the leaves on the trees into gold. Mom sat up front with Mark, pointing out little things along the highway: old barns, wild flowers growing beside the road, a hawk circling overhead. Evelyn and I sat in the back, sharing a blanket she'd found in the attic of the farmhouse. She held it gently, like it was made of memories. "I kept this blanket," she said softly. "My mother crocheted it when I was little. I thought I'd thrown it away years ago, but it was still there, folded in a trunk." I touched the soft wool. "It's beautiful." Evelyn nodded. "She used to wrap me in it when I was sick, said it held all her love. I never believed her back then. I do now." When we got home, the house smelled like cinnamon. Mom had set the slow cooker going before we left. Chicken stew with dumplings, warm and hearty. We gathered around the table without changing clothes, without fussing over place settings, just tired, happy people who had spent the day remembering who they really were. Mark opened a bottle of sparkling cider. "To new beginnings," he said, raising his glass. We all clinked. That night, after Mark and I went to bed, I could hear soft voices from the living room. Mom and Evelyn still talking. I slipped out quietly and stood in the hallway listening. "You know," Evelyn was saying, "I used to think happiness came from having everything in order. Perfect house, perfect manners, perfect life. But sitting on that porch swing today, I felt more at peace than I have in 30 years. Mom's voice was gentle. "Peace isn't found in perfection. It's found in acceptance. Accepting the messy parts. Accepting that we all carry stories we're afraid to tell." Evelyn gave a small laugh. "You make it sound so simple." "It is simple," Mom replied, "just hard to remember sometimes." There was a pause. Then Evelyn said, "Clara, I'd like to come visit your town sometime, see your garden, meet your chickens, if that's all right." Mom chuckled. "You're welcome any time. Bring your apron. We'll make pies together." The next few months passed like seasons, turning slow and steady. Evelyn started volunteering at the community center with Mom. When Mom came to visit, they worked side by side in the kitchen, preparing meals for families in need. Evelyn learned how to knead dough without measuring every gram. Mom learned how to arrange flowers in elegant vases. They laughed about their differences instead of hiding from them. Mark and I watched it unfold like a quiet miracle. One Saturday in early spring, Evelyn hosted what she called her first imperfect dinner party. No crystal, no formal menu, just folding tables in the backyard, paper plates, string lights, and food everyone brought from home. Mom brought her famous peach cobbler. Patricia from the garden club brought lasagna. Another neighbor brought cornbread. Evelyn made pancakes, her mother's recipe, stacked high on a big plater. We ate under the stars, kids running around the yard, laughter floating on the breeze. At one point, Evelyn stood up and tapped her glass with a spoon. "I want to say something," she began. Everyone quieted. "For most of my life, I thought being strong meant never letting anyone see your cracks. I built walls so high I couldn't even see over them anymore. Then Clara came along, not to tear them down, but to show me I didn't need them." She looked at Mom, eyes shining. "You reminded me of my mother, and instead of running from that, I'm finally running towards it, towards the simple things, towards the people who love me even when I'm not perfect." She raised her glass. "To cracks," she said, "because that's where the light gets in, and to family, the one we're born into and the one we choose every single day." We all toasted. Later, as the party wound down and people started heading home, Evelyn pulled Mom and me aside. "I've been thinking about the farmhouse," she said. "I'm going to fix it up. Not to sell, to keep. Maybe turn it into a place where people can come and rest, breathe, remember who they are. Mom smiled. That sounds like a beautiful legacy. Evelyn looked at me. Sarah, thank you for letting me be part of your family, even when I didn't deserve it. I hugged her. You've always been part of it. We just had to remind each other. Mom stayed another week before heading home. When she left, Evelyn drove her to the bus station. They hugged for a long time. Two women who had once stood worlds apart, now standing shoulder to shoulder. After Mom's bus pulled away, Evelyn turned to me. She's coming back in June, she said. We're planning a garden party. Chickens invited. I laughed. I wouldn't miss it. Years later, when people asked how our family became so close, I always told them the same thing. It started with a careless comment, a suggestion that hurt more than it helped. But instead of walking away, someone chose to stay, to listen, to forgive, to show up again and again, even when it was uncomfortable. And in the space between judgment and grace, love grew roots so deep nothing could pull them out. Family isn't about who's right, it's about who keeps loving anyway. And sometimes the people we think need fixing are the ones who help fix us. Thank you for listening to the whole story. If it touched you, if it reminded you of someone in your life who showed up when it mattered, please subscribe, leave a comment with your country, and tell me, has forgiveness ever changed a relationship for you? Take care of the people that matter. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. You never know how much light can come through the cracks.